Hey everybody, it's Katie. Today's video is going to be about your birthing dream team and whether or not your parents should be a part of that dream team. We all have different relationships with our parents, and some of those relationships are great, some of them maybe not so great. And so today we're going to talk about different scenarios that will involve how to include your parents in the whole topic of having a baby, whether that means up close or far away. But today we're going to talk about that, and also I'm going to give you some encouragement on being okay setting boundaries if that's what is necessary in your relationship. I am very fortunate in the sense that I have amazing parents, and they were both actually active in the birth of both of my children. My mom was, for my first daughter, my mom was sitting in the room. She was right by the tub when I pushed my daughter out. My dad was just right down the hall. We were at a birth center, and he was just right down the hall and came in shortly after we got my daughter up and got her dried off. Then for the birth of my second daughter, my mom was standing in the bathroom door in the hallway. We had our baby at home. Surprise! And my dad was just down the hall in the living room. So it was great because they were active. They were here when both of my children had their first breath and their first shriek. And it was a really amazing experience for me to have them there, and I'm sure also for them to be able to be a part of their grandchildren's arrival like that. However, I do understand that not everybody has that kind of relationship with your parents, and that's okay. I'm here today to encourage you to set a boundary in whatever way looks best for you. So whether that means that your parents have nothing to do with your birth situation, that's fine. Or whether that means that you say, okay, mom and dad, here is where I'm comfortable having you in this situation, then that's okay too. This is your birth, and having people around you that encourage you and that make you feel loved and safe and not anxious, not on edge or anything like that. That's really important. You don't want those kinds of people around you. And if that happens to be the way that your mom makes you feel, and it doesn't mean you don't love her, but it does mean that you can set a boundary and say, I'm going to have her help me in this way, not be in the room while I'm doing something super intense and kind of overwhelming. So I guess the first question, maybe not the most important question, but the first question is, do you have parents that live nearby or that are wanting to come and that want to be a part of the situation, they want to be a part of the birth, and they want to be in the room? So that's kind of the first question, is do you have that? If the answer is no, well, then that answers that question. If they're over there kind of doing their own thing or they don't live here, well, that's okay. They can help out in other ways. But if you do have parents who are active in your life or are close by and want to be a part of the birthing process, then comes the most important question of our video today, and that is, do you want them in the room with you? Now you might be wondering, why are we talking about this? Well, I'll tell you. What I'm hoping to help you avoid, because this is something that I didn't even really think about until the very end, but what I'm hoping to help you avoid is that last minute, you're getting ready to have a baby, or you're a couple days away, or you're a week out, and all of a sudden your mom's like, well, yeah, Dad and I'll be there. And you're like, what? No, I don't actually want you there. Or I actually want you to help me out in this way, or whatever the circumstance may be. I'm hoping to help you avoid that type of situation, because that can cause anxiety. That can cause a little bit of which is not what you need when you're getting ready to have a baby. So if they do live close by and you've decided that you want your parents to be in the room, or maybe just your mom, or maybe just your dad, that kind of takes care of that. I would imagine that if you want Dad in the room, you can say, and I don't think you'd need to tell him twice, like, hey Dad, can you stay back up here? There's usually chairs by the head of the bed. Can you hang out up there? Or if you would prefer your mom to be kind of back and away out of the action, you can, let her know. But typically if you're okay with having mom in the room, then, most moms I think are going to be quiet and kind of hang back. If your mom is not the quiet type, maybe just remind her, hey, this is not the time, this is how I need you to support me. And maybe that looks like just, can you please sit here quietly, maybe pray, encourage me, rub my shoulders, whatever. you want from your mom, just don't feel awkward in asking for that, because this is your birth. So if you've decided that they're going to be in the room, then maybe just have that quick conversation with them. Hey, when it's go time, I'm going to need you, Dad, to be over here, and Mom, here's what would work best for me. This would be the most helpful for me if you would be willing to do this. And then insert whatever. Now, there are some other ways that you can have your parents involved in this process without having them in the room, because you might say, okay, well, I love my mom and dad. They're amazing, and I know they really want to be helpful, but I don't know if I really want them to be in the room. I have a friend who didn't have her mother in the room, even though they live in the same town, but she did have her grandmother and her and another kind of mother figure in her life. And, you know, it was a little awkward because I think that her mom was kind of like, well, you know, why not? But she said it best. She said, you know, I love you, but I want you to help me in other ways. And then she didn't have that, and I asked her why, and she said, well, she makes me anxious, and she makes comments, and she says things that, you know, I don't want to deal with when I'm in the thick of it. I thought, okay, sounds great. So she had her mom helping in other ways. So some of those other ways that you could have your mom helping, or this would even work with a mother-in-law. If you are not comfortable having your mother-in-law there are other jobs that can make them feel special, because really, I think what it's all about is they want to be a part of this. They're excited. This is their grandbaby. This is their baby or their daughter-in-law, and they want to be a part of it. So some other options for helping, just maybe not in the room, would be having them be at the hospital when you go, or the birth center, or whatever. Letting them know, hey, we're on our way. If you'd like to come, you can. We'll have you hang in the waiting room, and as soon as the baby's born, you'll be our first person in. And make sure, even in the hubbub of things, make sure that Mom and Dad are the very first people in the room outside of personnel, you know, doctors, nurses, midwives, whatever. So then there's still that, you know, we are the first ones to see our new grandchild. That's special. Have them make phone calls and texts to the extended family and make the announcement. You know, you can do the Facebook announcement or whatever, but let them call the grandparents anyway, let them call their parents and be the ones to announce that, because that's special. You know, they want to share in this excitement, and so give them kind of a little bit of that glory over there. And it's not, I mean, you've got the baby, right? So that's another way that they could help out in this whole situation of having a baby. If you've decided that having them at the hospital at all is maybe kind of a no-no, then have them be the very first at-home visitors. So when you get home, say, we're home, we'd love for you to be the first ones to meet the new baby. And have that be the way that it is. Don't have friends over, don't have other people over. Give them that honor, I guess you could say, of being the very first ones to meet, especially if you know that they really did want to be in the room, but you really didn't want them to be in the room. Then having that little position of honor of being the first ones, the first pictures, that type of thing, then that's special. One last option in this whole thing is inviting them to come, and if they don't live close by, inviting them to come and stay with you for a period of time to help out. If that's the type of relationship that you have. If your relationship can handle it, then invite them to come and stay, because typically they will actually be a very big help. Believe it or not, your mom has held a baby before, your mother-in-law has held a baby before. It might not look exactly like what you would do, but trust me, in those first those first few days, the first few weeks, it doesn't really matter. They're safe, they love you, they love the baby, and they want to help. So if that's something that feels comfortable in your heart, then maybe consider doing that as well. You know, instead of having them in the room, say, you know, actually what would be the most help for me is if you would be willing to come after the birth and spend this extended, or this period of time with us. Now, going back to not having the parents in the room, the last thing I want to talk about really briefly is I understand that it can be kind of awkward to tell your parents or your mom or your dad. It can potentially be awkward, depending on the relationship you have with them, to tell them no. especially if it's something that they're like, well, I'll be there, you call me, and I'm going to be in the hospital with you, or I'm going to be in the room with you, and you're like, I don't want you to be in the room with me. So I understand that it is and can be an awkward conversation. So I wanted to tell you that there are a few people that you can enlist to help you with this. First and foremost would be your spouse or your partner. Now, I strongly believe in brave communication. However, I understand that when you're pregnant, things are kind of vulnerable and conflict is usually not exciting. And so if you just are like, I don't want to have this conversation, that's okay, don't. There are people who will help you. If your husband is in for it or your partner is in for it, just say, it's actually just going to be the two of us. Or you can say, you know what, Mom, Steve and I really have just made the decision that it's just going to be the two of us. He really feels strongly that that's the way it's going to be. And blame your spouse. That's what I was about to say that's what they're there for, but honestly, now here I am about to get myself in trouble, but I believe that the man is the head of the house, and when they make a decision, generally speaking, if it's like that, then okay, that's the way that it's going to be. Now, don't send me hate mail or nasty emails saying that I'm old-fashioned, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I do believe that that's a really great way to get out of certain things. Well, my husband said no. Okay. So that's one way. The other is going to be the medical professionals that are assisting you. So whether that's doctors, nurses, midwives, whatever, they are more than happy to help you in this situation, because they don't want a stressed out pregnant mom who's trying to deliver a baby but can't, or is having a hard time, or is struggling because they've got someone in their space that's making them anxious. So if you have the kind of relationship with your parents or with your mom that does not equal peace, you can tell your doctor, or you can tell your midwife, and you can say, look, I love my parents, but they drive me nuts and I don't want them in here. Then it's easy enough to go and say, well, Mom, I actually talked to Dr. so-and-so, or I talked to the midwives, and it's actually their rule that they don't allow anyone except blah, 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 whatever. They'll happily take the fall for you, because a happy delivering or a not stressed out delivering mom is way better than one who's under a lot of stress because she's got people who make her. Guys, we have a Facebook page. I don't know if you have checked it out yet, but I would invite you to go and check it out. We post on there content daily. Every once in a while I also post my amazing mom fails, which happen for once in a while, actually probably every day. Anyway, would like to invite you to check that out. And also, I'd like to invite you to be a subscriber if you're not already. If you click on that little subscribe button and you click on the bell icon, then you'll get notifications when we post new videos, which just so happens to be every week. And we'd love to have you join with us on our journey into family and babies and marriage and all that amazing stuff that comes along with it. So if you liked our video, click like. If there's anyone that you think would benefit from it, I would be honored if you would consider sharing it, because knowledge is power. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, and hope to see you next week for our next video. Bye!